To our normal agenda, and we'll go into the public input, and we'll start with Jennifer Consolino.
Hi, I have a petition tonight because next month is the annual town meeting, and last year we didn't have our annual town meeting. I know that you're probably going to say that it's too late, but it's an issue that we already had on the petition from last year that you told us was irrelevant. You told us that we could not put this on the agenda.
Who is you?
I'm going to read, pardon?
Who is you?
You yourself, yes, you yourself, Jerry, and
Okay,
Trustee
not
Fian.
just me.
No, not just, but there were several of you.
I just want to clarify.
Okay, and so this is the petition. We, the undersigned registered voters of Homer Township, Illinois, demand the following be brought forward for a vote at the annual township meeting on April 13th, 2021. Township Board shall place a resolution on the next monthly meeting agenda directing that the following question be placed on the ballot for the March 15th, 2022 primary election. Shall the terms of office for those persons elected to the office of Township Supervisor, Township Trustee, Township Clerk, Township Assessor, and the Township Highway Commissioner in Homer Township be limited such that no person so elected may serve more than 3 full 4-year terms in the same office. Now, I'd also like to read, because we didn't have our meeting last year, the Illinois Township Municipal Code came out with an Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act, and the disaster declaration is effective during the dates designed for a township annual meeting under subsection A, B, or C. A township board may postpone the annual meeting if circumstances related to the disaster declaration prevent a township from holding its annual meeting. An annual township meeting postponed under the subsection shall be held on the third Tuesday after 6 p.m. of the month following the expiration of the disaster declaration. If a subsequent disaster is declared under Section 7 of the Illinois Emergency Management Act prior to or 1 day after the expiration of the disaster declaration upon which the Township Board based its decision to postpone the annual meeting, and the Township Board intends to proceed with the annual meeting during the subsequent disaster declaration, the Township Board must consult and receive written approval from the County Health Department in order to proceed with the annual meeting during the course of the subsequent disaster declaration. We've been meeting for Township Board meetings since September. We never had our annual town meeting. I'd also like to point out something that the Orland Township just did, and I think it was in December. Orland Township places term limits referendum on upcoming April 6th ballot. They did it through resolution. Didn't do it through annual town meeting. Orland Township sends term limits referendum to Cook County Clerk, positioning the question before voters in the April 6th consolidated election. Orland Park voters in November showed overwhelming support for term limits. Responding to a clear directive from local voters, Orland Township filed a term limits ballot question with the Cook County Clerk's office to position the question before voters in the April 6th election. Referendum is a product of an Orland Township Board of Trustees directive in December. At that time, the Board of Trustees voted unanimously to approve both a binding referendum to be placed on the April 6th consolidated election ballot and a companion township ordinance embodying the proposal. If voters in the consolidated election adopt the term limits proposition, then no person serving in the office of Orland Township Supervisor, Trustee, Clerk, Assessor, or Highway Commissioner will be permitted to serve more than 3 full 4-year terms in the same office at the April 6th election. I'm going to give this to you for your public record to be documented, but you told us last year that we couldn't do this.
Okay, so that is not true, because you did not bring up anything to this board about term limits last year.
It was on our
So,
petitions last year.
Well, I don't know about a petition that wasn't handed in last year.
It was.
Well, who was it handed into?
It was handed into
All
the
right,
clerk.
You know what, I'm gonna tell you something. I listened to you, and I treat you with respect. So I would appreciate if you would stop. I'm trying to ask you a question, and you're already jumping in and answering out of order. I'm saying to you, I'm asking you, when did you ever bring this to the board? And when did you hand in a petition last year for anything to do with term limits?
February 2020.
And who did you give this petition to?
It was submitted to the clerk.
Did you receive such a petition?
Was it the one with all?
Yes.
So the one with multiple things, and I think that they said that it was not something that the the way.
I-
it is.
State election laws.
I don't remember a term limits being on the multiple thing, but that would have been the year before.
Yes.
That would not have been last year.
It was
2020.
last year.
Well, there's no sense in arguing. We'll look at it, but to be honest with you, I don't remember the board ever having a discussion about this or anything that you're talking about, petition being handed in. But regardless, as far as term limits and things like that, I don't know if it's different from Cook County or what's binding or what isn't. I don't know what your issue is because, again, there is no directive from this board one way or another. There's nothing in our minutes or records.
Can we submit this tonight for next month's annual town meeting?
The cutoff for agenda items was March 1st.
So you have to bring it up next year.
Don't
There
have
you
to.
go.
But they
Okay.
didn't do it through annual
All
town
right,
meeting with
all
Orland.
right.
Annual town meeting is.
They didn't
passed.
do it in Orland through annual town, so.
All
This is,
all right,
this
all
is
right,
Homer-
all right.
This is
Come on,
Homer
come on.
Township, this isn't Orland Township,
Come on now, guys.
okay? This is
Yeah, I
Cook
know.
County, not Cook County,
Okay.
okay? So, no, I'm gonna talk.
I
Supervisor
just want to make sure, first though, trustee Kruzak, that we all just kind of slow down a little bit first.
Well, we're slowing down, but I'm tired of hearing this crap. It's past the deadline, so bring it up next year on the annual town meeting if you'd like to see it. You're past. Should have been brought up before March 1st. You all know that because you know everything. So,
Thank you.
that's what I want to say.
All right, thank you. Our next person is JR and Kelly White. Is it both of you? want to
Yes,
speak?
we're
Okay.
We're up here. So, I know if they're masked, you can see me. My name's J.R. White, this is my wife Kelly White. We have I've recently taken over as president for the Homer Stallions. My wife, I've dragged her along with me, she's our secretary, so we are kind of a tag team duo. A little history about myself, I grew up in Homer Township, was part of the first group that moved from the Lamont Hornets to the Homer Stallions. Been in the program now since I'm the head lightweight coach. My son's 10 years old. Felt it right to step up and take over the program. Our future of the program is we're gonna bring a lot of new faces on the board, which you will see. We're learning very much trial by fire right now, so taking over this program during this pandemic and this spring season that we were not expecting has been extremely difficult. But we're up for the task, things are going well. Big difficult thing for us was this user agreement that we have never been through, my wife and I. We've worked with Donna, she's been unbelievable. I see our agenda on the program tonight. We just came to introduce ourselves, we're not staying, but I did want to just express, I know that I believe we're gonna get the ability to start next week. I'm reading about the Porta Johns. We're willing, we are exhausting everything we can do to keep these children safe. We've been practicing indoors, incurring tremendous expenses that the program does not charge for. We're trying everything to get this season off without a hitch. We completely understand the concern for the fields. Believe me, we want these fields safe now. We want them safe for the fall. And we just wanted to come out and kind of touch base on that very, very briefly. Even during regular season, when the fields are flooded or something, we do not practice there. Our fields look good. We're worried about the children. I am in discussions with many high schools in the event that we're unable to play. Unfortunately, not Lockport right now, but we have some Catholic schools that would love to host our program there. So we may end up not playing a home game or even two there in the event the fields do not allow us. Our last practice scheduled is for this coming Saturday. Beyond that, we have nowhere to practice these children. A big thing for me is that if in the event weather is looking very well, in the event it continues that way, we need to get outside next week. We need to get these children practicing together. We're kind of putting this in small sections. These children need to be able to go out and to play tackle football so they can get prepared. We have to have a certain amount of practices in to even play. So in the event we were not to be able to start next week, that would be detrimental to the season, which in turn would be detrimental to the program. We do have, I did want to let, on the field, we have voluntary, once we get the agreement, we have a group voluntary coming out to roll the field. We have voluntary coming out to top seed both fields this weekend. You'll find with Kelly and I'm a self-employed man. I own a very large national environmental company. I'm very much into this program, the children. on no social media, so you won't hear from me at all, but, we do just want to introduce ourselves and let you know that, we can be as much involved with the township as you want us to. Let us know, because we're learning as we go. Ultimately, we'll run a phenomenal program. The Sound's been around forever. I mean, that football, I went on to play in college. Football changed my life, so I'm very, very much into it. I love coaching, except for my own son, but I do coach. Listen, I'll be here for the next several years. I don't know if I'm missing something.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You know, the Stellans used to practice at the school field off of Parker. They still have boxes there for storage of equipment.
Yeah.
Did you approach them for extra
I've tried to reach.
space?
I've tried to reach. We don't need the extra space.
Oh.
We just actually. I mean, with the pandemic, our numbers are not what they used to be, where you have 2 teams at every level. So we're once we receive approval, hopefully from you guys, we're going to look to potentially stay off our main field for the next couple of weeks and be on the secondary field and kind of the varsity JV will go one day, the super lights will go one day. I mean,
Oh, I was gonna say, but there's space there, so
Yeah,
if
for
we do.
practice, if you were
Yeah.
saying if you
Yeah.
weren't able to, you know, like if the fields didn't allow,
if the-
it
if
would
the-
be good to
we're-
reach out to the school, because they have been keeping that, they only started maintaining that for stallions who used to use
Yeah,
it.
and I don't have a
For
contact
practice.
for that, and we've tried to reach out. I'm looking for that contact, so
You know what, maybe we can assist you
I
too,
would
you know, I
welcome
mean,
that.
we have been working together, and you
Yeah.
guys have been so awesome, and it's always, when we have a new president, it's
Sure.
always a learning curve, you know,
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
everybody, and I'm sure once you get your feet wet, there'll be some changes and things, and
Yeah.
we'll work with you. As far as the, rolling of the fields and the top dressing and seating and stuff, I would like to just be, cautious. The sprinkler heads, you know,
Yes.
we have an irrigation system there, and sometimes when we have people out doing stuff, they don't know about the infrastructure,
And again,
so.
we can go as far or as little as not. All you guys have to do is say, JR, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. We are,
No, we just wanna work with you so that if you
Absolutely.
need to know, like, where things are, so, I mean, we're not gonna come out there, you know, every
Yeah.
week or whatever, but because you're new and because
absolutely.
there's a learning curve, we can, you know, put a little bit more, like we did now with the contracts and stuff, a little bit more into, you know, trying to get you guys more self-sufficient.
Our biggest concern is just not being able to prepare, particularly the littles, which I'm with, is not being able to prepare them and then throwing them out into a game. Once the River Valley said, okay, we're having a season as a program, we are pot committed.
Yeah.
If we are not having a season, we're refunding our entire program, which is financially detrimental, and then we're losing players all over the place, other programs, which is detrimental to the future of the program. So we are committed to having this
Right.
season, and we're excited about it. And right now,
Yeah.
you know, this week the weather looks great. In 2 weeks we'll see where we're at.
Right.
But
Right,
we're
yeah, I mean, our only concern was we had this unusual snow dump,
Totally.
and everything is so wet, and originally, your target date was March seventh, and really, I think we all could agree that
Totally.
on March seventh, those fields could not be used like
yeah,
that.
and when
So
I
working with you guys has been awesome, because you have, you know, we've been able to try and come to something.
I walk them regularly, and I mean they're a little soft. They're good.
They're
And,
getting
and with
better.
rotating, you know, we're only practicing a couple of weeks, rotating the air. I mean the fields are gonna get banged a little bit. I mean that's just.
Yeah.
I mean during regular season when it's wet, it's wet. But
Right.
we have no work. The thing is, we don't have the funds to continue to go into. Not. It's also not helping the children prepare properly. So that's it. Not in my long-winded. We just wanted to
No.
introduce ourselves.
And I wanna verify, so, our goal for this, additional spring season though is to keep the practice limited to the east field, correct? Your practices
That's our
are
goal,
gonna.
or just the littles. So the little ones would be in, you know, moving spots. I mean, they're 60 pounds. They're not.
Right, but I mean,
it's the
you're gonna
varsity.
try and preserve the west field for the games, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I mean, is that we're gonna try and keep all that practice.
And we're April 3rd is, because of Easter Sunday in the high schools, we are playing at home, April 3rd. We have to get our crew up at stretch the field to do all that stuff, and I'm just waiting, I will coordinate that next week. The other 2 games that we're hosting, we're seeking backup Sunday games for each, at a high school field, turf field, in the event we cannot go. And we wanna play at our field, it's an awesome place
Yeah.
to be, the
Yeah.
community loves it, the family loves it. but in the event, we only
Well,
have
and
five.
there is only a few turf fields in the area, and I do know, we did reach out, we too, because we wanted to accommodate you.
Yeah.
So we did contact other organizations and ask what they were doing, even some
Yes.
that have River Valley, and they were saying, no, especially with the March 7th, no, on the grass fields and stuff, and we kind of concurred, but we thought, well, we'll see what everybody, maybe there's some other locations for you, but they were saying that because they were not using their grass fields, their turf fields weren't gonna be readily available for anybody outside of the area too, so we did try to, do a little
I appreciate
reaching
it.
out for you
It's a
guys.
difficult spot for everybody, every township's in the same,
Yeah.
the same, but we wanna make this happen, wanna introduce ourselves, we appreciate it, and,
Thank you.
we're looking forward to get out there next week.
Thank you. And I do want to clarify one thing with the porta potties. I think our concern on the porta potties is what we started with last year. But just so you understand, we're not just talking about the porta potties at the sports complex.
No, I understand.
We have them all over, and so,
We will be abiding
the
on.
stuff we're talking about, you guys have made an agreement with us to
Yes,
try and
absolutely.
do the sanitation that's required. So it's just that the board needs to look at all of the areas, some that we really just don't have the staff to be going in there and.
Understand, for the township's knowledge, is again, I do own the National Environmental, I've done over 2.5 million square feet of decontamination, fogging, so we have the equipment, I personally do, to be doing our shed, to be doing the equipment, to be doing that stuff, so we're conscious of it,
Good.
and, I mean, this is it's a very difficult
Yeah.
time for all of us.
And we
the
do
kids,
go out.
The kids are the ones that are, it's more at risk,
Right.
for us. The kids are out there, they're doing their thing,
Right.
and we're just excited to get them out, they're so happy to be out and doing something,
I
and
know.
running and moving.
Even last
driving
year, when
together.
HAC was able to do the limited
Yeah.
season and stuff, and even when we allowed stallions to just
Absolutely.
do camps and practice and stuff, I mean, you could just, it was nice for me, I do work late, but it was nice for me to come out and hear, after such a horrible year, with the pandemic and everything, so I agree.
We
And thank
appreciate
you.
it. You have our contact information.
Yeah,
Glad to be
absolutely, you
able-
guys have been great with all the paperwork.
Thank you.
Thank you, nice to meet you all.
Yes, we do.
I'm sorry, so of course, I should probably be paying attention to Steve Down.
I'm here to talk about Carmelita's also. And I'm just giving this is a copy of your minutes indicating what Ken Kuchar said is correct. We came with a whole list of 12 things. And in that whole list of things was term limits. And trustee Fian said, and I'm gonna read this verbatim because I got the video and I took time to make sure I didn't screw none up, and I'm reading it instead of saying it. He said the electorate has no say in making term limits. He went on to say that state statute does not allow it. Super Myers said, we cannot do that. And then at another point you said, if you have this stuff voted on at the annual town meeting, then there was a pause. Then you said, I believe it was Jennifer that criticized the last time saying that if it's advisory, why did you let us vote on it? We can't accommodate because we don't set state statutes. That's what you said verbatim.
Well,
Supervisor Meyer goes on to say, we are not allowing agenda items if they're not within the authority of the electorate. That's verbatim of what you guys said. Was this,
I don't see term limits.
with this, all this here's going on, I'm looking at the mayor of Homer Glen has term
I
limits.
don't see anything that specifically
Are they
says
breaking
term
the law?
limits.
Orland Park is running on term limits. Are they breaking the law? So my question is, back then, when we wanted term limits and you refused to allow it on the agenda, you said it was, this is quotes right out of what you said.
I know what we said,
So-
but there's nothing here that says
Well-
term limits. We talked about,
Well,
what did
was-
you have, 12
No, we
issues
talked
on,
about term limits,
request
and
for
it
the
was
agenda?
thrown off because we were told we have no authority, and we did.
I
And so I'm
understand
just
that.
pointing out that with that being said, I think Jennifer's petition should be allowed to be put on the thing for a referendum for term limits. It's only fair because it should have been put on before. And it wouldn't have interfered with anybody running because I don't think anyone would be affected by it for this term. So the point being, we were told wrong information Why, I don't know, because I think he didn't wanna vote on the other stuff. But regardless, if there's a law that says you can't have term limits, I wanna see the statute. And I got this right off the videotape. So, I mean, it's not made up. And that's all I
Okay.
gotta say.
Okay, very good. Well, I will just say this. You have taken some snippets of discussion about, I don't even remember, I wanna say at least 12 items that you brought forward to be considered at the, I believe it was the 2019 annual town meeting. And yes, some of those conversations and snippets that you're saying are correct. But again, there's nothing here, and again, we'll go back and check our records for the complete record, not just the little page that you took out about non-relevant items, which there was discussions here, and the board did discuss many of the non-relevant items that were on the sheet. But again, there's nothing in your paperwork here, even using our words, that say anything about term limits. So, that's all I can tell you about the supposed proof that you did. As far as term limits, it's not on the agenda. I can't speak for any other counties or townships or whatever. So let's move on.